Hey y'all, Austin here with Outer World Media. Welcome back to another book review, guys. Sorry, I had drew a blank there for a second. Again, welcome back. I'm super excited to talk to you guys about this book and try to review it without going into any spoilers or anything like that, because I feel like this is an underrated book. But without giving any more about how I feel about this book away, let's get into it. We are talking about Brian Lee Durfee's The Forgetting Moon. For those of you who don't know who Brian Lee Durfee is, he has the #1 TV show in the world. He is published by Simon and Schuster Saga Press. He is the author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. Um, Brian seems like a great guy. I don't know him personally, but I've been following his YouTube channel for quite a few years and whatnot. He reviews just about anything and everything under the sun, book wise. I've known that Brian's had these books out for a while, or at least the first couple, and I've been, it's been a little daunting. I've not been one to necessarily dive a whole lot into fantasy. Never really considered myself a fantasy fan. To a certain extent, I like a little bit like the Lord of the Rings and whatnot. Um, but anyways, let's get into it. What is the Forgetting Moon about? Well, reading the back of the blurb here. Welcome to the Five Isles, where war has come in the name of the invading army Source Sevier, a merciless host driven by the prophetic fervor of the angel prince Eros toward the last unconquered kingdom of Golconda. That is just a very, very brief description of the Forgetting Moon. So let's get into it. Without spoiling anything, just kind of set the scene for you. When this book opens up, we are at this land, and this guy is fighting assassins of some sort. He's trying to protect a little child, that's kind of how it opens up from there. Again, try not to give too much away. And then from there, we are introduced to the land of, what is it called? Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm drawing a blank. Gallows Haven. Sorry, I have my notes here. We were introduced to the land of Gallows Haven. We're introduced to a cast of characters that are in Gallows Haven. But again, that's where the story opens up, and we follow, that. And so this story essentially is the Source Sevier is invading Golconda. You know, um, from there, the cast of characters we move. There's two different parties in this story. We have the Capital Group and the Gallows Haven Group, is what I'm gonna call them. Throughout the story, we're kind of jumping back and forth between those two groups. You know, with this story, as big of a tome as it is, there is four different storylines that are all connected going on in this story. We have, and again, I can't go too much into detail without giving anything away, which is very unfortunate. But you know what? Again, I'm gonna do my best here. Um, we have a huge cast of characters in this. Again, just to kind of give you some of the main ones, we have Nail, we have Tala, we have John, we have Galt, we have Eros, we have Showercroft. Sorry, I can't speak. We have Stefan, we have Doki. I'm calling him Doki. We have Zane, we have Liz, we have Rogamore, we have Hawkwood, we have Lindhoff, we have Glade. We have Leaf. I mean, there's just so many characters. I did the math. Brian actually, in the back of the book, has like appendices and a cast of characters. There's 104 characters referenced in this book. Now, don't let that, worry you, because like I said, there is that glossary in the back for you to reference. I didn't know that was back there, if I'm being honest with you guys. Um, but I say that to say this. I never once, even if I known that was back there, I wouldn't have had to reference this. Brian does such a great job giving each character their own voice that I never got any of them confused or mixed up on who was who or where did this person come from. Never had that issue with this story. Again, this story there's so much that goes on that it's hard to talk about it without spoiling stuff. Again, essentially, this is an invading army with a capital who has different political figures and parties that are trying to look out for their own and do what they think is best. This is such a great book. Brian blends quite a few different items in this story, and it's unique in my opinion. Again, we had that invading army. We have, Gallows Haven, who were the caught the brunt of the force of that, when they invaded. Um, there's so much that goes on in this. We see how, you know, the Capital Group and the Gallows Haven Group are trying to do their own things and how it's all incorporated and whatnot. It's so awesome. Um, Again, there's just so much that happens in between. And a lot of this book, and it's to be understood, this is the first book in a trilogy. A lot of this is a setup for the rest of the trilogy, I believe. That being said, there was never a dull moment in this book. There was one section, and I remember, and I probably will always remember. There was one section where we're in the castle, and we're just starting to learn these characters. And I was like, okay, I was hoping, I want a little bit of action. Again, I don't read a whole lot of fantasy, but I was like, what, we're setting up characters. I've enjoyed it. No sooner than 5 pages later, we are getting set up with an assassin who is, you know, it's so awesome. Again, and that's a good thing, kind of going into what do I like, going into my what I think is unique to my channel, the review system that I do, the good, the bad, the ugly. The good is what I like, the bad is, stuff I did like, and the ugly is stuff that I think would be nitpick that I will say that I think some people may have issues with. It's I didn't have an issue with it if it's over here. So stuff that I did like. I like the character work in this story. Again, I listed off quite a few character names there. Again, 104 characters. Never had an issue confusing one character with another character or anything like that. The way Brian sets it up, again, he does such a great job doing it. Going over my favorite character probably would have to be Nail. And the reason for that, there's a chapter in here, that, and again, I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, but there's a chapter in here that's a little heartbreaking, and it at least made me feel kind of bad for Nail, because he is the bastard child in this town, in Gallows Haven, and everybody treats him that way. And that leads, into another thing, just the blend of traditional and modern fantasy that Brian puts in this story. You have that trope, the traditional fantasy trope of, a orphan, and they're sent on a journey and whatnot, or a teenager sent on a journey and whatnot, and a group that forms up and whatnot. But Brian does such a great job blending modern stuff in this as well, which leads to the flow of the story, which is great. The flow of the story is awesome. There's never a dull moment, I think, in this story. It's one of those, again, the end of every chapter wants to, leave you wanting more. I caught myself up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning reading because I'd be like, okay, I'm going to finish this chapter. And then the chapter would end up like, okay, well, I need to see what happened. Or Nail's chapter would come up. Or, John's chapter would come up. Or Tala. And I just have to keep reading it. Which leads to, the twists and turns that happen in the story. You could be reading something and just out of nowhere, this this thing happens, and you're like, holy crap, did that just really happen? You had to go back and reread it. But yeah, there's a whole lot of good in this story that I really liked. Now, kind of getting into the bad, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, I couldn't find anything. I was sitting here for the last, 10, 15 minutes trying to figure out, okay, what's something I didn't like? I didn't come across anything in the story that I didn't like. I really enjoyed the hell out of the story so much. Again, that never happens, where I don't come across something that I, at least normally have at least one little, nitpick or something. Kind of getting into the ugly now, though. Something that I think some people probably won't like. There are some graphic scenes in this. Like I said, Brian blends modern and traditional fantasy really good. You can definitely see the grimdark aspect that is thrown in this story. There are a couple scenes of something happening that is, taking place to another character that's a little bit graphic. So be warned of that. There is some harsh language in here as well. Another thing that I think some people probably might have an issue with. I didn't. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Brian pays homage, I think, to stories that he has enjoyed over the years and loves. For example, there is a character in here who is a little person. Kind of makes me think a little bit of Game of Thrones. There's a couple names that are, that might be from a different story, but you know what? Brian does such a good job that I didn't even think, oh, this is a complete, rip off of. No, I never once thought that. I just thought it was Brian paying homage to stories that, have impacted his life and that he loved. And I really enjoyed that. Again, Brian took it and made it its own. But yeah, again, that's going to be my review, guys. Take it for what you will. Rating this 5-star book all the way. I had no issues with that. I loved every second of reading this story. So again, 5-star review. Go buy this book. Check it out right now. Amazon, Kindle, however you got to get it, get the book. As always, thank y'all for stopping by and watching my videos. Thank you.